Bismillah wa sallam ala Rasulullah. SubhanAllah, I think, look, we've come, community has come a long way. And yesterday we were having a chat about, the post 9/11 period. I mean, actually, the Oklahoma City bombing, right? The Oklahoma City bombing, 1994, is why CARE was created in the first place, because of the backlash against the Muslim and Middle Eastern community. Then post 9/11, and then after the San Bernardino shooting, every one of those events did something to the community, and the community realized that we need to be engaged, we need to be involved, we need to have a political voice. And of course, the genocide was the biggest game changer, because people felt powerless. They were watching the genocide unfold daily on social media. And especially like for doctors, for example, I saw the doctors getting active like I've never seen before. Of course, we always had doctors involved, but because doctors know what's happened in Gaza probably more than all of us, because they work in the hospital. They know what their brothers and sisters, the healthcare providers in Gaza are going through. And so they got engaged. And many of the ceasefire, pushing elected officials towards ceasefire came from the healthcare workers in our community who met with members of Congress. We facilitated those meetings, and they were able to push them to come out publicly and support a ceasefire. So I think the genocide was the biggest game changer. Now we're seeing folks, young and old, all around the community wanting to make a difference and want to ensure that a genocide like this never happens anywhere. And also not just ending the occupation there, but ending the occupation here, which we'll talk about.
We have the sandwich.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say first and foremost, thank you to the MCC for giving us this opportunity and welcoming us into your home. Your reputation far precedes just the Pleasanton area. What we know about you is that you are always welcoming. You have been big supporters of Palestine and making sure that this conversation stays in the community, in the front minds of the community. And what a beautiful and diverse congregation that you have, where people are welcomed just as they are. So may Allah bless all of the board members, all of the leaders, all of the staff here at MCC, and of course, all those that choose this as the place to worship. The reason why I didn't want to go first is because I like when Basim goes first, because Basim is a much more positive person than I am. And Basim always, and I'm in awe of Basim, who gets to see the positive things in this moment through all this tragedy, that anybody could see something positive. I have a slightly different perspective in the sense that, yes, our community over the many decades has built infrastructure, and we have incredible organizations like CARE that are celebrating now their 37th anniversary. We have the mass organizations, we have the ICNAs of the world, right? We have the MUNAs, we have so many organizations that have been around for decades doing incredible work in our community, leadership development for young people, doing charity work, doing community service in the community. It's been incredible to watch our institutions, even as someone who's a Muslim American that is born here in the United States. I'm so proud of all these organizations. But I also still believe that we're not doing enough. And if genocide of the Palestinian people for 22 months that we have not been able to stop is not proof of that, then what is the point of what we're doing? And I think one of the things is that we as a community have leaned into charity. MashaAllah, our community is so generous. Sometimes in 1 year, the Muslim community will give over $1 billion in charity to Pakistan, to Bangladesh, to the Rohingyas, to the Palestinians. Something happens in Lebanon, earthquake happens in Turkey, earthquake happens in Morocco. Our community is so generous. MashaAllah. It's something that is unprecedented in any other community to see the type of generosity of our community. And at the same time, our community has not yet learned how to leverage and to build our own political power in this country. What's the point, sisters and brothers, of feeding the Palestinian people if the next day their whole families die in airstrikes that are paid for by your taxpayer dollars? In this state of California, your 2 United States senators voted against, they voted against a resolution that would have stopped sending aid, military aid and bombs to the state of Israel. There's a moment of reflection that we have to have as a community. And so while we do have people building political institutions and infrastructure, I think the question and the seeds that I want to plant this weekend in this area is, do we just want people to start new organizations? How many packs have you heard about that people are starting just in the last 2 years? I probably have heard about, I'm not exaggerating, 50 packs that have opened since the genocide. The question is, who starts the pack? Who has the expertise to start a pack? When you are someone who's looking for a doctor in a particular area, right? You don't go to the ear and nose doctor if your foot is hurting you. And subhanAllah, in our community, somebody will just get up and say, me, I'm starting a pack. No one in the community says to them, what's your political background? Do you understand the rules of regulation of the Federal Election Commission to run a pack? Have you ever ran a pack before? What's your area of expertise? What access do you have? Can you show us a track record? So there's something fundamentally in our community around, at some point we have to respect the expertise of people in our community. I'm not an expert in everything. Nobody comes and asks Sister Linda any religious, advice. That's not my area of expertise. That's not what I do. If you are looking at a particular area of research, maybe that's not my area. And what I am humble enough to say, there's, mashallah, we have plenty of scholars. Go ask Sister Yasmin Mujahid. Go ask Sister Lubna Mualla. Go ask Sister Muslima Permel. Don't ask me, because I don't know. And I'm not an expert in this area. And so I feel like, yes, we're building infrastructure, but we got to a place right now, 22 months later, we have not stopped the genocide. And I want everyone to ask themselves, what more can we do to stop a genocide? Not what more service we can do in the community, not how many more, Muslim events can we do in the community. It's how can we stop the genocide of the Palestinian people? And it's not to say that the Palestinian people are the most important people in the world. There are many people who are important and many people who are suffering from all types of horrific injustice. But the Palestinian people are the litmus test for the Muslim community. Don't ever believe that that Allah is testing Palestinians. He's not testing the Palestinian people. I just want you to know that, because these people, the situation, the circumstance of the Palestinian people is testing you. You are the one that's being tested, not the Palestinian people. Allah is going to take care of them. I promise you that. And they know that, which is why they always say, Alhamdulillah. They never ask God. They never say, Allah, why us? Why did you pick us? They never ask that question, because they know that Allah is not testing them. They're testing the ummah. They always say, I don't know if you ever watched a video, and I'll end with this. I watch videos of Gaza all day, every day. 4 o'clock in the morning, I open my phone. I'm in WhatsApp. I'm on Telegram. I am overly consumed by genocide. The Palestinian people, you know what they say? They say, Wen al-Muslimin? Wen al-Arab? You think that they're only talking about Muslim leaders? You think they're talking only about the Arab leaders? No, when they say Wen al-Muslimin and Wen al-Arab, they're talking about you. They're talking in particular about the Muslims and the Arab that have went to Western countries and have succeeded and have privilege and have rights and have access to participate in democracy. So when you hear them say Wen al-Muslimin, I just want you to know they are talking about you. And I know that they're talking about me too, by the way. I don't put myself, I know they're talking to me. What am I doing every day? The question is, what are you also doing? And inshallah, we're going to get into a conversation, hopefully at some point, about what we are going to do and what we need to do. And these conversations are not going to always be easy to hear. But sometimes as a community, we have to be self-critical of ourselves. We have to say, what can we do better? What are we not doing better? We are very good at saying, look what the pro-Israel lobby is doing. Look what AIPAC is doing. Look at what those people are doing. Look at what they do. Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're doing. What are you doing? What are we doing? Whoever went to a panel where the Muslim community was talking about what we could do better or what have we done wrong? That's the kind of conversation we have to have on a continued basis all the time until, inshallah, we become excellent. And excellence is going to be the reason why we help to free Palestine.
Not much else I could say. I think Basim and Linda did an excellent job, I think, level setting where we are as a community. First, again, I want to also echo thanks to this institution and to the incredible team at CARE for facilitating these conversations. I see staff in the back. Shireen, I want to give her a huge shout out. She texted me at 12:30. She texted me at 4:30. And she texted me this morning. I don't know if she's asleep. I don't know if she just has a bunch of B12 shots that she just keeps on hand. Best Allahumma barak. May Allah use you and not replace you in this effort. You know, I think about Michigan as an example of where everything can go wrong and where everything can go right. And we were the birthplace of the uncommitted movement. I'll never forget, after October 7th, I have a group chat with Mayor Abdullah Hamoud of Dearborn and Rashida Tlaib. Obviously, everyone knows what Rashida is. And we started talking about what uncommitted can look like. Rashida texted and said, hey, what do you guys think if we came out and said we're going to be uncommitted in this primary? Michigan had moved its primary to the 5th in the nation. And obviously, Joe Biden was basically running uncontested in the Democratic primary. But was it an opportunity for us to show and demonstrate our power as a community? Everyone talks about Michigan having more Muslims than anywhere else in the country, and it was a swing state. So all of the pieces were there for us to effectuate and demonstrate our power as a community. And about 150,000 people voted uncommitted, if I'm remembering my numbers. There were about 250,000 Muslims, of which 60% of them could have registered and voted in that Democratic primary. And Michigan is also the birthplace of protecting parental rights within the Muslim community. That was a huge conversation that we were having. Everyone remembers the conversation about books. And pretty soon the Muslim community talked about 4 letters, and I don't want to say them because there's kids in the room, but there was an emphasis on 4 letters more than we would even talk about alif lam mim. And this became the conversation. What do we do as a community to protect ourselves and protect our children from being taught things that were inappropriate and being taught things that are antithetical to our beliefs? And then you look at the results of the February primary, where we had a chance to flex our muscle more than any point in our state's history, more than any point in Muslim American history, to emphasize that point. The irony is when you break down the data of who voted in that primary uncommitted, would you guys believe me if I said those same people that we said we need to protect our children from voted uncommitted for Gaza's sake more than the Muslims did? When you break down the data, I'm going to repeat that again. The number of Muslims that voted uncommitted for the sake of Gaza was less than those people that just 6 months ago we were attacking because they were, quote, poisoning our children's minds. And this goes back to the Arabic proverb that I use consistently in my work that goes, Al-ilm bila amal ka-shajari bila thamar. A tree, knowledge without action is like a tree without fruit. It bears no purpose. I don't have to tell you the data points. I don't have to tell you the stories. I don't have to explain to you all the atrocities that we have seen. Whether it was Hind or Reem, the world was exposed to the horrors of Gaza, paid for by US taxpayer dollars. And in that vein, we saw a Muslim community in Michigan that could not put itself together to move forward and say, we are going to draw a red line and say genocide is the disqualifying factor. And we will show you that we have 200,000 Muslims that can vote uncommitted, but about 30,000 showed up to actually vote in that primary. So we talk about building institutions. Linda mentioned 50 packs. What good is it to build an institution if you have no one to sustain or push that institution forward? So as we enter this next phase of this presidency and what is now a conversation that is finally breaking into the mainstream, I want you all to think about what are you doing with that knowledge? What actions are you taking with what we already know? What actions are you taking to make sure that your tree bears fruit that will one day liberate a Palestine? And I want to close with this one point. You know, one of my teachers, Sheikh Muhammad al-Masmari, says, if nothing else, what is going on in Gaza should shift in you a mindset of, I am ashamed to sin and displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this moment. That there are people literally disintegrating before our eyes. No exaggeration. When a body is going through starvation, organs literally eat themselves from the inside. And it is a numbness that I don't think any of us will ever experience, inshallah. But he said, if nothing else, the genocide in Gaza should demand of you to say, I am so ashamed of what's happening to my brothers and sisters in Gaza that I will do more to please Allah and do less to displease our Creator. That is the absolute baseline. And in that, we should prioritize not slandering or attacking or discrediting our brothers and sisters who are on the front lines fighting for that greater justice. So that is amongst one of the sins that we can say, we are not going to discredit and displease people, displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by discrediting people and backbiting and slandering and saying these folks are not worthy of the support and the legitimacy of uplifting the justice that our community knows is truth. So I hope that as we continue this conversation today, inshallah, we'll have that honest ability to assess where we are as a community, where we are individually, and where we hope to go as we enter this next phase of this horrible crisis. An opportunity for us to build political power.
Thank you so much. I mean, to piggyback on what you're saying, you know, the fact that so many people did not come out to vote, or they were, you know, I think I am also having the difficulty of, you know, finding people to come out to vote, coming to, a lot of people are even saying that no, voting is haram. Or they're saying that, no, you know, we need to tone it down, like respectability politics. We need to tone down our demands. Or, you know, maybe people have like past trauma associated with like maybe their home countries and what they've experienced if they ever got involved politically. But how do we break through that and get people to realize that it's our responsibility to, you know, to be involved, be engaged, and to come out and vote? And be involved in some way.
Thank you, Samina, for that question, and you know, really appreciating you know, Abe kind of laying out the uncommitted movement, which I was also a part of, and proud of and disappointed in at the same time. Like I straddle that, because I think that when the Muslim community, and I don't mean everybody, we are generalizing here, because there are very incredible individuals in our community who are very consistent, who are organizing, and leaders of different masajid, the leaders of different organizations. I'm just talking about our community just in general. You give them something very simple to do. You tell them that Tuesday there's an election. It takes you maybe 10 minutes to drive to a polling site. Probably doesn't take you more than 10 minutes inside of the polling site. And we can't even get the majority of our communities to do that. But the same people that will tell you they didn't go to vote are the same people that cry for the people of Gaza. Can't cry, but when given the opportunity to do something, you don't take that opportunity. And especially if the thing that you are being offered doesn't require any risk on your part. It doesn't require any risk. And we also have watched over the last 20 years, the number of people in many countries, from Egypt to Tunisia to Syria to Yemen, people who have literally stood in front of a sniper, stood in front of a tank for their right to democracy. They want the same right that you have here. People were willing to die just so that they can choose their leaders. So for me, in this country, there's a story. The story is that you didn't just get the right to vote. And a lot of us forget that. There are people in this country who shed blood so that we can be citizens of this country, so that our parents can come from other countries and get their access to citizenship, and then to be able to register to vote and go vote. So when I go to the polls, it's also not about who you like. Our community always say, oh, Sister Linda, I don't like that guy. I don't like this lady. This is not a popularity contest. You're not going to go to dinner with these people. You're not inviting them to your house. It's not about who you like. In that moment, as a Muslim, I have to ask myself a question. I have these choices in front of me. Which one of these people is going to do the less harm to the most marginalized people? That's what I ask myself. It's not about who I like and who I don't like. I already know these people are flawed. Everybody's flawed. Every elected official is flawed. And we can take an elected official and we'll have, for example, they have 5 issues. And you agree on issue 1, and issue 2, and issue 3, and issue 4, and then when we get to the 5th issue, you don't agree. So what do? You throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because you don't agree with them on one issue, you are literally forfeited 4 other issues that could alleviate harm and suffering of your neighbors. So they support affordable housing. They support access to health care for everyone. They support the rights of immigrants to be able to navigate our society and free of deportation and free of being kidnapped on the streets of their community. They support access to high quality public education for all children, regardless of what zip code they live in. And then subhanAllah, there's an issue that you disagree with them on, and that's it. You're saying, oh, khalas, I'm not going to vote in this election. We have to become more sophisticated as a community. And I think, just to say this, I have a lot of trauma. And I'm not always the same person that many of you met. Some of you I met 10 years ago. I changed as a person. I'm a different person. I watched horror of my people every day. Live stream. Did you ever imagine to watch a live stream genocide? Did you ever live to think that you could pick up your phone at any hour and see children being blown up, seeing fathers carrying plastic bags, and when they ask them what's in the plastic bag, they say, this is my son. Body parts of my child in a plastic bag. Bombing of hospitals. There's not a single university today that stands in Gaza. This is what we experience every day. In our community, Palestine has been under occupation for 77 years. But subhanAllah, our community, they require genocide to go outside and say what is happening is wrong. In 2014, you remember, it was a big war or a big onslaught on Gaza, about 3,000 people. SubhanAllah, our Muslim community, oh, free Palestine, stop the killing, we go outside. Okay, quiet. They do ceasefire, quiet. Then a couple of years later, 2018, the Great Return March, they start sniping the people. We're watching this on television, you remember that. And then in the other, CNN has the Great Return March in the state of Israel sniping and killing nurses and journalists. And then on the other screen, Donald Trump moved the embassy. Remember that? We were watching this at the same time. And then the people said, oh, let's go outside. Great return. We stand with the Palestinian people. Go quiet. 2021, same thing happens. We go outside. We're mad again. Now we're 2024, 2025. My question to the Muslim community is this. Why do you need dead Palestinian babies? Why is it the reason that blood is what moves us? Is the siege of Gaza not enough? Is the stealing of the Palestinian land, is that not enough for us? Is the fact that we have blocked Palestinians from being able to pray in Al-Aqsa, is that not enough? Is it the humiliation of worshippers every single Ramadan by the state of Israel? Is that not enough for us? Do we need babies? Do we need to see starving babies? Do we need to see bodies piled up? Is that what's the disease that we have in our hearts that you require Palestinian mothers to carry their dead babies to the camera for us to move as a community? One thing that I'll say about us as we continue to have this conversation, we have to move from being a reactionary community. We react, we are emotional. Politics is not emotional. In this country, politics is not an emotional exercise. It's a strategic exercise. It's a long-term plan that we have. And we have 2 problems. One is, as a community, we react with our emotions, not with our minds, and not with strategy. That's number 1. The second thing as a community that we do is we want to win tomorrow. So we think that if we elect a guy, subhanAllah, you elect him, and then the next day when he starts the job, he frees Palestine for you. This is not how it works. The real work starts after you elect the person. I'm going to give one example and then I'm going to pass it down. And this is why we're going to talk about why it's important to have organizations like Care Action. So be clear, we are here as Care Action, not Care, the nonprofit organization. Because one of the things that Care, the C3 side, realized that they're doing good work. They're suing the government. They're suing employers. They're defending the rights of our young people in schools. They're defending women in hijab to be able to work in any industry. They're doing the good work, political education, registering voters. They're doing that. As you know, in this area, you have one of the best Care chapters in the country, the Care San Francisco Bay Area chapter. MashaAllah, one of the largest chapters, and it's because of the wonderful support of communities like yours. But Care National said, wait a minute, something's missing for us here. As Care, we can't endorse candidates. We can't really engage in high-level lobbying like AIPAC does. So we needed something. Something's missing. Everybody knows Care. And that's not to say that any organization is going to be 100% perfect. But I'll tell you this about Care. You could go to Connecticut. You could go to Nebraska. You could go to Texas. You could go to Chicago. You could go to New York. Everybody knows Care. Care already has a good brand in our community. It's something you hear, and you already know this is almost a 40-year-old organization that was started by brothers in our community that have sacrificed over 40 years of their life to bring Care to where it is today. So we need an organization that's going to help us navigate this space. So I always say to Muslims, and I give you an example about something Muslims do, and I know you're going to know that I'm right because I know you participated in some of these things. One time I went to Texas. A Syrian doctor invited me to his house because he was having a fundraiser for a guy who was running for Congress. I said, oh, no problem, brother. I was going actually for a Care banquet. But in the daytime, they were doing a fundraiser. So this brother said, Sister Linda, would you come to my house? We're going to do a fundraiser. I go to the guy's house. MashaAllah, Allahumma barik. Allah bless this man. His lobby of his house is the size of this room. Cars, everything that you want. Very good, dear brother. And also, by the way, a generous brother. A lot of money and very generous. The man who was running for Congress came, he spoke to the people in the room, and the Syrian doctor who was the host asked people for money, and subhanAllah, they raised $180,000 in that small house, I mean, not the small house, in the big house with only about 40 people. So the guy has a volunteer or a staff member, they took the checks, they were writing all the, you know how they got to do the paperwork, and then the guy came and said, thank you to the Muslim community. Thank you so much for your support. And then the guys left. So I went to the Syrian doctor. I said, brother, can I ask a question? He said, yes, Sister Linda, mashallah, we raised $180,000. I said, oh yeah, mashallah, no doubt about it. I said, what did you ask for your $180,000? What commitments did this man make to you? What did you hope that he would champion when he becomes a congressman? Who, by the way, he didn't become a congressman. But the point of the story is they didn't know that at the time. So when you're giving over money in our community, we have a lot of people in our community that do fundraising, especially, by the way, in this area, in what they call the San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley. Most of the political donations that come out of the Muslim community, by the way, for federal elections come from this big area. What do you ask? Do you say to them, excuse me, come here, we're going to raise $150,000 tonight, but when you go to Congress, can you commit to support Block the Bombs Act, which is a piece of legislation on the table that would limit military aid to Israel? Will you support that? Very simple things. This is not something special that we do as a community. This is something that every other community does. We just want to give the money. We just want to show that we have some level of access. And then the people leave with our money and we never ask them to commit to anything. That requires a new level of sophistication from our community. It requires organizations to say, sister, you're having a fundraiser at your house. Here are some commitments that you should be asking for from the people who are coming to your house to get money. Imagine if brothers asking this candidate the same question that we're asking the candidate in New York, that we're asking the candidate in Illinois, that we're asking the candidate in Texas. Imagine if we all had the same narrative. That's power. That's power, that we all are on the same page, that we're all coordinating, that we all are building together. Not brother over here is doing his own thing, this other brother is asking for something else over here, this other brother is asking for nothing, this sister saying something else. This is why we are a very significantly large community, relatively speaking, as Muslims. We are in certain parts of the country. In this area, you are a very powerful political force in the Bay Area. You are also powerful in Dearborn and parts of Michigan. You're also powerful in New York. You're powerful in Chicago. You're powerful in Houston and in Dallas. We have in places, Tampa, Florida. We are in Atlanta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta. We are in Southern California, Phoenix and Tempe, Arizona. The problem is we have not been able to coordinate our power. So Samina's question is more so, how can we get our people? I always say to people, the individual is important, Samina, because I know you're going to tell your family to go vote, but the individual by itself is no longer enough. That is why if we're not supporting institutions that have the political infrastructure that is not a nonprofit, the nonprofit cannot do what we're doing. That's another thing that's important. We can endorse candidates. We can lobby. We can raise money. We can operate PACs. You can't do that as a masjid or as a ICNA chapter or as an even care chapter. We have to start asking ourselves what is missing and then make sure that whatever is missing is no longer missing. Because I will end with this. The people in Gaza, they deserve better than us. They've sacrificed everything for you. They have demonstrated our beloved deen and a type of faith that I ask Allah every day to give me the faith of the people of Gaza. They've shown the world grace, honor, integrity, solidarity with one another, what it means to take care of your Muslim brother and sister, to pick up orphans even after you lost your daughters and your children. You are immediately, your instinct is to say, these are my children now. They've shown the world the best of us. The least that we can do is to be the best for them after all they sacrificed for us.
It's hard to go after Linda. I have another Syrian doctor story.
I love the Syrian doctor.
I think the question's always about, are we going to vote? Are we going to vote? That's always the question. Oh, the Muslim community doesn't vote. The Muslim community doesn't vote. MashaAllah, we give money. We don't vote. I mean, we've heard this trope enough times. I think we have to reset as a community and establish that intention of why we are doing what we're doing. You know, what if tomorrow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took every single thing that we did not say alhamdulillah wa shukrulillah for today, and he took it all away from us tomorrow? And then think about that in today's political context. What ni'am do we have? What blessings do we have as Americans living in this free society that we are just taking for granted? And then tomorrow Allah takes all of that away from us because we did not thank Him and praise Him and recognize the bounty that we have living in this country. And that for me is an exercise. I'm not going to say I do it daily, but I try to do it weekly as someone who's in politics. What are the things that I can say? What are the things that I can do? Who are the people that I can engage with that I know would not be possible in where my parents are from, which is Yemen? And I remember the day my mom went to vote for me for the second time. It wasn't the first time. I had lost my first election. My mom got to read up to third grade. She got married really young, had 8 kids. I'm the 7th. But I'll never forget, I ran a 99-day special election because my state rep died of COVID. And my mom wore 4 masks. It was during COVID. So she said, I'm not voting absentee. And I will never forget when I took my mother to go vote. Again, woman never got to go to school. The one blessing that we have from Silicon Valley is WhatsApp voice messages, because it is the best way I can communicate with my mom without having to call her. And now you can actually read transcripts of messages, of the voice memo. So thank you for any engineers at work for Meta that are Muslim. If you guys helped build that software, I want to thank you. But when my mom went in, she had 4 masks on. And she went in to vote, and she said, I don't know how to read any name on here except Ibrahim Aiyash. And she bubbled my name twice because I was on there for a special election. And I cried. I cried because I recognized, alhamdulillah, there is nowhere in the world this would have happened. that at 27 years old, I would be walking my mother into a polling location so she can bubble her son's name to eventually serve in the Michigan House of Representatives. So I always remember that story because in the context of all the ugliness that we see, and I know Linda said that Basim has a beautiful heart and always trying to be positive. When I first met him in Michigan, he had just gotten word that some of his cousins were killed in Gaza. Literally, after Taraweeh prayer, he had just gotten some notice that he had lost family members in Gaza. And he stood up and he still made the pitch for why having institutions like Care and Care Action are so important. And that level of focus, that level of deep understanding of why he's doing what he's doing is exactly what every single one of us need to focus on today. And he didn't just talk about federal races. He didn't say we have to elect members of Congress and members of the Senate and the presidency. He said we need to elect thousands of Muslims all over the country. And the story, I go back to my Syrian doctor. Hillary Clinton came to Michigan. Michigan was seen as one of the swing states. Hillary Clinton came to this gentleman's house. They had a huge fundraiser for her. He had a big house, but not as big as this. His lobby wasn't as big as this room, as Linda's friend. But you know what they say, everything's bigger in Texas. But he served on the board of a masjid. I want you guys to really hone in on these details. This masjid, for 6 years, was trying to get an expansion for their parking lot. 6 years. Could not get the expansion done. But he had the flex to bring the top presidential contender, who everyone thought was going to be the 45th president of the United States, to his house. And then I remember when the local government would not approve the masjid's parking lot expansion. I said, and I use this line everywhere I go, I said, this is a community that thought they could free Palestine, but could not figure out how to get free parking. So, as we think about our next steps, what are we doing to make sure we know how to get free parking before we put all our energy, all our anger, all our money, all our resources to free Palestine? Because if you're not able to establish the foundations of something as basic as convincing your local government and your zoning board to authorize and approve something that is as basic as literally putting a car on a piece of concrete, how in the heck are you going to be able to organize an ummah to free Palestine? So free parking, once we figure that out, I believe that Allah will facilitate our ability to figure out how to free Palestine.
Just want to add, when I go around the country, I tell folks, I don't blame you for not voting. Now, I'm not here. Not here, because you got Samina in the Bay Area, and she's been doing endorsements for a long time. She's telling you down ballot who to vote for. I know sometimes it comes late, but she's been doing it as a volunteer for like almost 20 years, right? MashaAllah. But around the country, do you know this is not happening? It is not happening. And so last year, for the first time, we went from doing this. We've been doing this work in California for about close to 2 decades now, right? So we actually have one of the highest percentages of Muslim turnout. It's in California because sisters like Samina have been doing these voter guides, endorsement guides for so long. But I go around the country, I tell you, I don't blame you for not voting, because you've never had an organization that vets the candidates, that does their research, that engages local leaders and asks them, have you engaged? Have you worked with these folks? And then coming out with an endorsement guide. Down ballot, not just for federal, right? Because it's a psychology of the voter. If they, they don't want to go and just vote for one person. They want the entire ballot. So now we're doing down ballot endorsement guides. And last year, in 19 states, Sister Samina, and I'm going to tell you right now, yes, mashallah, Sister Linda said that most of the political contributions are coming out of here. But I want you to know that Samina, Shireen, Dahlia are from here. And we have a small team. They actually make up the majority of the team, and they're running the entire country. And last year, 19 states took positions on 1,500 candidates. It was historic. It was history. 34 voter guides. One was translated into Bosnian in San Luis, with about 100,000 Bosnians that live there, that single-handedly can sway any election. These sisters are strategic. So now with this, now we told them you had an excuse before, now you have no excuse, because now we have these endorsement guides that inshallah will change the political ballgame.
Jazakallah khair. And thank you very much for your kind words. But alhamdulillah, it's a team effort. So, so I know that we're coming to close to the close of our event, but I wanted to ask this question that, like, if every Muslim took part in something, became more politically involved, politically engaged, what type of change can you see in this community, in the country, in the world in the next 10 years? Like, what type of change can we expect? And also, I wanted to leave what is to give folks like a call to action. What are one or two things that people can do in order to help us towards that change?
If every single Muslim American in this country was registered to vote, because that's the first problem. Not everyone who's eligible to be registered is registered. If every single Muslim American in this country registered to vote and participated in every single local and national election with principles in mind, not issues, principles, right? Not the specificity, guns and this. No, this is why this country, why people don't like voting. This is, we moved with our Islamic values. We are people who want to see people live with dignity and respect. We are people who are moved by compassion. We are people that don't like to see violence against anyone. We are people that don't want to see people dying because they don't have access to health care. We don't want to see immigrants being kidnapped from their children and put in detention centers and sent away. If we just moved by the things that move us as Muslims, trust me when I tell you, we will transform this country. We really can. And not only will we transform this country on the domestic level, we will transform Muslims and people all over the world. To give you just a recent example. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard about a young Indian Muslim brother born in Uganda in New York City. And his name is Zahran Mamdani, and I always laugh about him because everybody knows him now as a celebrity. I just know him as Zahran. I know him as a college student who had just came out of college that became an organizer with us in New York City, that was part of the Muslim Democratic Club of New York, which is a club that I founded, that worked on a very bad campaign. And I don't mean bad as in the person that was running was a wonderful man named Ali Najmi, who's a Pakistani lawyer. That was our friend, but we lost. We came in like 5th place. Like, it was not a, I cried for like months after that race. This is how I know Zahran. I know him as a young Muslim that was organizing, knocking doors, and the same kind of enthusiasm that you see from him, that smile that you always see. This is not for the cameras. This is exactly who he is every day since the day that I met him. But it's also a testament to the New York Muslim American community. And Abe came out and saw, at least during the GoTV time, what it looks like when a young man who is pro-boycott, divestment, sanctions, who's unequivocally pro-Palestine, who has courage, right, who doesn't back down, starts to run for mayor in New York City. And I promise you that around the country, 80% of Muslims, including in the Bay Area, who I called to be like, hey, can you help us? Because we really are onto something here. The Bay Area Muslims, I'm talking about the big donors, they said, Sister Linda, we love you, but you are naive if you think that New York is going to elect this guy to be your mayor. Wallahi al-Azim. And they know them. They called me after when Zahran won. And they said, Sister Linda, you were right. But you know who didn't question me? You know who didn't question me? The Care Action people didn't question me. They also have a PAC called the Unity and Justice Fund PAC. I went to them and I said, hey, the time is now, Habibini, to move that PAC. We got a big race now. They are the biggest contributor. Actually, in my bag, I will show you, I have the mailers that we sent from the PAC to the homes of New Yorkers. It says on it, paid for by the New York PAC, largest contributor, the Unity and Justice Fund PAC, which is the Care endorsed or Care Action Super PAC or endorsed Super PAC, because they have another Super PAC, another PAC. But my point is, why did they not question me and then other people question me? Because they have the analysis. right? You look at the demographics, right? You look at how many Muslims are, how many South Asians are in New York City, right? How many people are affiliated with the Democratic Socialists, which we knew were going to support Zahran. So when people are experts and they have analysis, their conclusion is different than someone who's like, New York is never going to elect a pro-Palestinian brown guy who was born in Uganda. So the call to action is New York is going to set a precedent around the country. And it already did. Minneapolis, there's a young man named Omar Fateh. He's a Somali American who got the endorsement of the Minnesota State Party, the Democratic, the DFL. The first time in the history of the DFL, they never engaged in local mayoral politics, but they did endorse Omar Fateh. We also have a young brother, a cancer survivor, incredible young man named Mus'ab Ali, who's running for Jersey City mayor. Also incredible young man, who inshallah will go to the top 2 vote getters in November, and he'll go to a runoff. So this is how you transform politics. Now notice in New York City, who knows who Richie Torres is? Anybody know who Richie Torres is? Richie Torres is very bad, very anti-Palestinian, very pro-Israel. He talks more about Israel than he talks about issues impacting his actual district. Now look at his feed the last couple of weeks. Oh, we need to get aid must enter Gaza. We are against forced starvation. SubhanAllah, he woke up all of a sudden and found a little bit of empathy for the Palestinian people, except it's not empathy, it's fear. Because now he's saying, wait a minute, if New York City can elect a Zahran Mamdani and make him win a Democratic primary, then I'm next. That's how he's thinking. So when you help elect people like Zahran, when we start electing more people who are pro-Palestinian, who are pro-peace, who are pro-diplomacy, who are pro-healthcare, who are pro-immigration, guess what happens? You signal to people all over the country. AIPAC, I'm part of a coalition, so is CARE Action, called Reject AIPAC Coalition. We started this last year. They just came out with a statement just the day before yesterday that even AIPAC is running away from people like Randy Fine in Florida, because they know that they're a pariah in politics. People are like now, oh no, I'm not going to take AIPAC money. People who took AIPAC money don't want AIPAC money now. That's because of all of us and all the work that we do. And this is the way you transform politics. At the end of the day, what we want is we want to end the financing of bombs that kill our brothers and sisters. Sisters and brothers, 650,000 Iraqis are also going to testify against us. I just want to remind you, the Afghans will testify against us. This is not just about the Palestinians. We failed too many times with many more people. So here's what we want you to do. One of the things I don't like about the Muslim community structure, I hate galas. I hate the fundraising, raise your hand, $25,000 at the masjid. Why? Why can't we just sustain our organizations? So what we want from you all is, what if you said, I'm going to commit $100 a month to CARE Action. That's it, $100. And I'm going to get my cousin and my uncle and my son. And if let's say 500 people, right? 500 people said $100 to CARE Action a month. 500, you know how much? That's like maybe a third of your masjid, right? How many people pray here on Friday? About 750 people. Okay, so let's say 750 people to be conservative. Let's say 500 of the 750 people said, we're going to give $100 a month to CARE Action. You know how much that is a month? $50,000. That's how we don't think about that. I know there's probably one guy in the masjid somewhere that could give his own $50,000. I don't actually want that. I don't support that. Because I know that each of us has $100 a month, which is $25 a week, that we could give to CARE Action. Then you know what? You know what happens when Basim has $50,000 to pay staff, to pay for guides, to pay to support independent expenditures in different localities when we're working on elections. You know what that means? He doesn't have to waste time fundraising. Because that's another hours that you're spending. Call uncle so-and-so, call sister doctor so-and-so. That takes time. Going around the country, I have to come with them from New York to Kansas, from here to this. I'm not saying I don't want to come and see you and I love you, but I also think that he can just walk away. And this message says 200, forget 500, 200. 200 people at $100 a month is $20,000 a month that we can say, alhamdulillah, we don't have to worry about not paying staff, right? We should have an entity in this country that has at least for 50 states, we should have at least 50 staff, at least. And we're not talking big salaries here. We're not paying people to $250,000, $500,000. Just people to have a dignified life, health care for them and their families, just to do this work. So the call to action today, join Care Action. $100 a month, $25 a week. Sometimes it's 3 cups of coffee that people get and 3 lattes a week. Or maybe one night we're not going to buy some good food that we want. We're going to cook at home. $100 a month. If you can help us in this masjid outside of this room on Friday and say, I joined Care Action at $100 a month. Can you join Care Action for $100 a month? Can you join? Then guess what? You'll never see Basim in the Salat al-Jum'ah saying, brother, who has a 10,000? Who has I don't want your 10. I want you to keep your 10,000. I just want your $100 a month to give to Care Action. And then the second thing we want you to do, you have to be leaders. If you, and I know most of you who come to these types of things are probably the most active in your community anyway, because that's why you're here so early in the morning on a Saturday. It's not enough that you go to vote by yourself. If your wife says, today I'm tired. No, there's no I'm tired. There's no I'm busy. There's no I'm going to the mall with my friend, or I got this. When you go to the polls, make a commitment and say, Anna, I'm not going to go to the polls by myself. I'm taking at least 5 people with me to the polls. I'm going to take every action that is given to me for Gaza. When Care Action sends you an email and says, email your member of the United States Senate in California. I promise you, if your United States senators got at least 250,000 emails telling them we want you to vote for Senator Bernie Sanders' joint resolution, I promise you they would have. Because they would have said, oh my God, 250,000 people in California want me to do this. I'm not willing to lose these people's votes because I have to run for re-election. But I promise you they didn't get 250,000 calls or 250,000 emails. So simple. That email takes you 1 minute. Even Care, a lot of organizations, MPOWER does this too. Wallah, we do the work. We write the email for you. Into you just have to put your zip code and your name, send. That's it. And we can't even get a lot of Muslims to do that. So join Care Action. Take every action that you see that comes to your inbox, that you see on social media. Take people to go to vote for, and also be an ambassador. Say, go home today and say, well, I was at the masjid today and they did this presentation. I didn't know there was a Care Action. This is a political organization. Let me share more out. There's a website. Could you also join with me? We all have the power to do these things.
So I just want to announce a campaign has been launched. And this campaign actually launched quietly in New Jersey, and it's going to come here inshallah to California. It's called 100 for 100. 100 people in a community for $100 a month, with another group that's going to do matching funds. So that's $120,000 a year. With matching, that's $240,000. If we do it in 100 communities, that's $24 million reoccurring every year. 100 communities. So inshallah, it's been launched. And by the way, in New Jersey, it was launched by local folks. They're not staff. And they're going around to their circles. They're going in their masjid. They're going to their family and friends. And it's a grassroots campaign, and they're signing people up. They're running the campaign because we don't even have the bandwidth to run the entire country. So they're doing it. So inshallah, the hope is that folks here, and mashallah, we met some folks that came from San Mateo and Burlingame that came out to MCC today, that we want you to adopt this campaign. You run it. We'll give you all the toolkit needed and just start signing people up. And then in a span of 1 year, if we get the 100 communities in 1 year, now we have a war chest. Now we can build out the team at a national level in strategic locations, and we'll deliver victories. Now I'll tell you I'll end with this. Last year, the American Muslim community defeated the pro-genocide lobby in the most expensive race in U.S. history. It was a congressional House race in Southern California, $50 million race, Derek Tran against Michelle Steele, right? Michelle Steele's husband is AIPAC, ADL, and all, board member, right? They called her the AIPAC sweetheart. And the community mobilized. the super PAC mobilized, and the community, the Muslim community, defeated Michelle Steele by 653 votes. 653 votes. It was the biggest upset. Then in Maryland, the Muslim community got involved again. One in the primary against AIPAC, one in the general election against AIPAC for U.S. Senate federal seat. Then this year in the municipal elections in Illinois, 19 races were won.
Can I just say, no, the Maryland one is important. Angela Salsbrooks is the senator, the United States senator that Basim's talking about, if you look her up in Maryland. Because she knew who helped her defeat. At the time, it was the governor, right, that was running against her, right? Yep, the governor. Guess what she did? She was one of the United States senators who voted in support of Bernie Sanders stopping bombs to the state of Israel. So this is not just we voted for a woman and that's it, and she walked away. When the time came for her to execute on the values of the people who helped her get where she got to, she was one of the 18 senators that joined Senator Bernie Sanders. So again, it's not just the winning part. It's what's the work that you do after with these United States senators to make sure that they're doing the right thing in the voting.
And I'll end with this. In Illinois, 19 races, 17 were Muslim. 17 of the elected. This is the day after Eid, this year. The day after Eid. 17 were Muslim. Municipal elections. And subhanAllah, you know, Care Action had shuttles from outside of centers. We were all out. 30 canvassers delivered a lot of those victories. And then pivoting to New Jersey, over 20 seats, state assembly seats and other seats were won. In Texas, you saw Muslim mayors in a few key cities. It's changing. We're seeing the community when they're engaged. We have the data, we have the tech tools needed to win. Now, inshallah, just unity with just us uniting and uniting our efforts, inshallah, you'll see in the midterm elections, we'll make even more history. Next year, we've been preparing for the midterm elections since last year. Imagine. We were prepared for 2026 in 2024. Our data folks and Samina and others were already analyzing races from last year preparing. So I'm telling you, we're getting there. We just need your support. We need you to be ambassadors. And Linda said we don't need your 10,000. No, we need it right now as seed money. But in the future, she's right. We don't need it in the future. If we run the 100 for 100, but we need people to give us the seed money, I'm telling you, we'll have the war chest needed to win and win. The political war chest to win, inshallah. So I can't thank this community enough. This community, mashallah. Look, I'm from Sacramento, and people from Sacramento come out to this center because you've been a beacon of nur, mashallah. May Allah SWT bless this community. We look forward to continue engaging you and working with you to build power in this community. The Latino community used to have 30% voter turnout. 30%. Their organizations united and mobilized. And by the way, we're modeled after them. They're the ones who got us going in 2018. We launched our C4 in 2018 in California. And the Latino community was instrumental in that. And then they took it from 30% to 70%. And you see all the elected officials around the country at all levels building power, right? Inshallah, we will be there very soon, inshallah.
Who here likes pizza? Do you raise your hand if you like pizza? Linda, do you like pizza? She's from New York. So not many people here like pizza. Raise your hand if you like pizza. Come on. So I'm going to give you two options, okay? I can get you a frozen pizza that you put in the microwave for 3 minutes and it's ready to eat. Or I can give you pizza where we knead the dough ourselves. We let the dough rise. We take tomatoes. We roast the tomatoes. We make the sauce. We get fresh mozzarella cheese. By the way, most cheese in Italy, most Parmesan, fun fact, is actually made by Indians more than Italians now. So Indian-made Italian Parmesan cheese. And I get this imported, and I say, I will make you a pizza with all these ingredients, and it'll take 15 minutes to put it in the oven. Which one would you rather eat? The frozen pizza that I put in the microwave for 3 minutes, or the one that I can make in 15 minutes? Who wants the frozen pizza? Who wants the other pizza? Okay, so this is basically how politics works. If you want something that is worth consuming, if you want something that you are proud to give to other people and talk about and praise and say, this is the greatest pizza ever. It takes time and early investment for that pizza to come out great. And if we think about that in a political sense, we can give money to people running for president. We can give money to people running for governor or Congress or US Senate. Or we can start investing in the ingredients very early. You know, everyone talks about AIPAC. I'll tell you a true story. When I got elected majority leader, I was invited to Israel. They said, hey, you're going to get a free educational excursion. We're going to pay for everything, business class ticket from JFK to Tel Aviv. You get to sleep on the bed, stretch your legs out. We're going to get you there. You're going to be able to eat the food, explore the culture, visit the Dome of the Rock, and this is all expenses paid. Are you interested in going? And I responded, I said, I will go if we visit some of the settlements and we get to go to the West Bank and talk to Palestinians who lost their properties. And then they stopped responding to my emails. But my point is, like, people talk about AIPAC all the time. Oh, AIPAC, AIPAC, AIPAC. AIPAC invests early. They make the dough and they let it rise. They take the dough to Tel Aviv and they make it ferment there. Then they bring it back to the United States. And then they put the sauce and the cheese. And then when it's finally time to run for Congress, they're going to tell you this is the best pizza you've ever had in your life. See, CARE Action is going to be that institution that allows us to make pizza with halal pepperoni. And I'll close with a quick story. When I first ran for state senate, I was 23 years old when I launched my campaign. And I was running against 11 people. 11 people were in that race. And I was not considered a serious contender. And then we paid for a poll. And then the poll said we were tied for first place with 2 other people. It was myself, it was the guy that ended up beating me, and it was the guy who ended up in 3rd place. The guy who ended up beating me and me, we raised about the same amount of money. I raised about $110,000. He raised about $130,000. Now, this is in 2018 dollars, so today it's a lot more expensive. But I want to tell you the story. I did not have enough money to pay for the mail that you have to send to people's homes early enough. So people got their ballots in the mail. Who knows what absentee voting is? I hope most of you guys know what absentee voting is. So absentee voting is when the ballot comes to your house, you get to fill it out and send it back. My opponent was able to send his flyer to people's houses the same week that people got their ballots. So they get their ballot, they get the mail. Okay, we like this guy, we're going to bubble his name in. I was 1 week late because I could not afford to pay to actually get my mail printed out. I had 8,000 mailboxes. Each mailer cost about 50 to 60 cents. Do the math. I didn't have enough money at that time to send that mailer out. I ended up losing the absentee vote, that election cycle. And then I ended up losing election day voting by 25 votes. 4 years later, the same person that won the state Senate seat ended up running for Congress. And he ran for Congress as a pro-Israel candidate. Now, I think about that and I say, okay, imagine if I had the extra money to send that mailer and I was the state senator and I ended up running for that congressional seat. And the person sitting in Congress for that seat right now is named Shri Thanadar. Shri Thanadar is one of the most pro-Israel, pro-Hindutva candidates in the country. He's the sitting member of Congress for that district. He's pro-crypto, pro-Modi, and pro-Netanyahu. Imagine if I had won the state Senate seat, if I had that extra mail. Allah alam, this is Allah's decree, but I just want you to think about, if we had done our part, imagine if I had won that Senate seat and I would have been able to run for that congressional seat. Would we have someone who is pro-Hindutva, pro-genocide, and pro-crypto in that member of Congress? And he's a Ahmad, yeah. So think about that in the context of what you guys can do right now. 100 for 100. If you guys do 100 for 100, you can literally help invest in someone running for a county seat, someone running for school board, someone running for state assembly, someone running for state senate, and maybe that person ends up running for U.S. Congress, and maybe that person ends up running for U.S. Senate. Linda told you about Angela Alsbrook in Maryland. She knew who supported her early on, so she remembered that relationship. She knows who made the dough rise to make the pizza. So a box of pizza today costs about $20. A good box of pizza costs about $20. 25, I'm going to round up. $25 for a good box of pizza. I want you to commit 4 boxes of pizza a month so that we can make the best pizza with halal pepperoni all across the country. And that really starts with a small effort that each and every single one of us can do every single day.